If you like this video, please give a thumbs up and subscribe. Hit the bell icon to be notified of new videos. Police UFO sightings in the United Kingdom are about my experience with Gary Heseltine in my hometown Odense, Denmark, November 1, 2011. Here he gave a very interesting presentation of the UFO research he has done as a hobby alongside his work as a police officer in England. You can see the presentation in the 3 videos at the bottom. The research he did can be studied in the database PRUFOS, Police Reporting UFO Sightings. Today he is retired from the police and deals with his magazine UFO Truth magazine, which features articles by many of the world's leading researchers. Police UFO Sightings database PRUFOS. First of all, Gary Heseltine created the Police UFO Sightings database PRUFOS. For many years he built the database receiving sighting reports from police colleagues and supposedly still does. It's a large collection of British police officers' UFO sightings. It is officers both on duty, outside service, and retired. The database contains to date over 500 cases from the period 1901 to 2011 and involves over 1,000 British police officers who all have witnessed unexplainable events related to the UFO phenomenon. PRUFOS is a brilliant creation that reveals the police also have experiences with UFOs. And police officers are trained observers. They know what to look after and how to build a case with evidence around an event. When the police experience a UFO sighting, there's a lot more weight behind the observation. Especially in cases where several police officers independently of each other observe the same unknown aerial phenomenon. Recounted his first UFO sighting at the age of 15 at the presentation in Odense, which was organized by Exopolitics Denmark, he started to tell about himself and his background. He recounted his first experience at the age of 15. He and his girlfriend observed an unidentified flying object, UFO, that took out the power from several residential neighborhoods that were laid black, while it passed over the houses. Then he told about the background of PRUFOS and how the project was realized. And from there it was about the primary in his presentation, namely the many interesting unexplained police UFO sightings which you can find in the PRUFOS database. English police officer Alan Godfrey abduction case. One case is about a possible abduction case of an English police officer Alan Godfrey, who observed an object which blocked his way on the road. Later, this cop realized that he had lost a half hour he could not explain. Using regression and hypnosis 4 times in a row, 3 of them being recorded on tape. He tells the same story all 4 times. It appears to be an incredible story about an encounter with aliens in a spaceship, where he is medically examined. It's actually the first time someone tries to describe the small greys as bulb heads, which are creatures with big heads that looks like a classic incandescent bulb. The ex-policeman still says he was abducted by aliens 37 years after, according to the Metro.co. Unidentified flying object the size of a radium. One of the many police UFO sightings I remember from the presentation is the case from 1978 with the 3 policemen taking a cigarette break in a rural location. First, they see a flash in the distance. After a short moment, a vessel the size of a stadium suddenly appears in front of them. It moves slowly and silently and seems to scan the countryside with light beams only a few hundred meters away from the police officers. This continues for 15 minutes, after which it disappears in a split second. They do not see it move in any direction away from them. It just disappears in front of them, like when you turn off the light, click, gone. UFO research based on solid evidentiary. Heseltine was an active police officer serving the British Transport Police between 1989 to 2013. He was a trained detective for 16 years and an accredited police investigator for serious and complex crimes. He is a specialist advanced police interviewer of both suspects and witnesses. His activities on duty include the gathering of reliable evidence. He knows what is good solid evidence and what is not. That's why he is interesting in connection with UFO research. He explains that it is an important detail that several witnesses observe the same event and from different angles. A photo or a video is also evidence, but it is crucial that there are consistent reports from several witnesses at a time. If a UFO appears and you have several witnesses seeing it from different angles, you have a strong case. And if it is seen on radar and the witnesses can back it up with photos or video, makes it a very strong case. If the witnesses are police officers, military personnel, pilots, etc., which all are trained observers, you have an extremely strong case. And if no one can determine the origin of the unidentified flying object, it is what it is, a real UFO. The case of extraterrestrial life is, of course, another matter. The important thing here is to establish if the unidentified flying object is a known terrestrial vessel or not. PRUFOS database statistical facts. The end of the presentation. He reviews the PRUFOS database statistical facts that reveal a fair amount of obvious evidence, and then concludes that the UFO phenomena are real and should be taken seriously. Question time. The audience had the opportunity to ask questions at the end, and the conversation turned, among other things, onto the incident with the black triangles in Belgium in 1990–1991, which Gary thinks is a very strong case, involving many radar stations picking up the objects. I also remembered that incident 20 years ago. It was actually reported on Danish news television. The presentation, UFOs and the police. Are you interested in this exciting area of our reality, especially about police UFO sightings? I highly recommend you to see Mr. Heseltine's presentation in the 3 videos below. This is the presentation from Denmark, Odense, on November 1, 2011. Enjoy! The second lecture took place in Copenhagen on Saturday, November 5, 2011 at 6:45 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. in Kulturhuset Indre by Nansensgade, Stor Sal, Charlotte Amundsens Plads 3. The Gary Heseltine presentations in Denmark were organized by Exopolitics Denmark. Gary Heseltine retired as a police officer in March 2013 and is now the founder and editor of UFO Truth magazine.